You can't just deliver digitally. SoFi and Chime are doing it with hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing. We don't have that. So we're going to put boots on the ground. So it is a digital delivery, digital credit union with a human element. And we're hopeful that we'll build a community where not only can they all, benefit from the products and services that we provide, but they can benefit from each other.
Today, we're talking with Rob Hoyle of Arizona's Vantage West Credit Union. Rob shares with us the story of their new digital brand HUSTL, created specifically for freelancers and independent professionals. Rob shares the background of the why of the project, how they decided on this segment, the shockingly small team that pulled it off, and how the experience of launching HUSTL created the playbook for all the future innovation and growth that Vantage West is looking at. There's lots of insights and lessons learned on really what is truly possible for community FIs to reinvent and accelerate their relevance to their market. Enjoy. With us today is Rob Hoyle, CIO of Vantage West Credit Union and one of the leaders behind their new digital brand HUSTL. Rob, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So, Rob, why don't we start a little bit about your background, a little bit on your career history? Because when you begin to think about digital branding and offshoots, that usually isn't something that falls to the CIO to execute. So why don't we start there? Give us a little bit of background there.
Yeah. So if I go all the way back, thank you for asking. I at one point in time, I wanted to be a linguist, and then I wanted to be a golf professional. And I found my way into technology, I think because I liked the way you could solve problems in a novel way. I liked the way we could use tools, technologies to do things that hadn't been done. So I really get energized by changing the world through the application of technology. And I think, in my career, I've got a history of doing that. I just was speaking at an event, and I mentioned that the HUSTL that we're going to talk about was the most exciting and the most fun I've had in my whole career. The second most fun, for context, was doing an MRI on a Komodo dragon when I worked in research and technology. So I've been around the world kind of in different verticals. I've worked in healthcare for about 11 years. I worked in university level research, which was healthcare adjacent, municipal government, some consulting, some facilities management. Every step of the way, I've tried to find a way to kind of rediscover or redeliver the best experience using technology. So I think what makes me a little different, or the reason that I maybe am one of the leaders of this initiative, is because I don't think about how can I put a technology in, I think about how can I change things, and technology is the vessel of how we do that.
So you had worked a little bit in medical services. I think there was a stint in like kind of government work around there as well.
Yep, did some municipal government for a very progressive city in Mississippi, West Point, Mississippi, which was a great kind of early part of my career, where we were integrating an entire city back early 2000s when it wasn't really being done. We ran fiber around the city, got all the departments talking. Again, this was a transformative thing that wasn't really being done. The idea was to bring the city closer together, provide better services to the residents, and the execution was enabled by the use of technology.
So this kind of gets into like how the role in many organizations, CIO, is kind of really changed into CTO, which then becomes the mantle of transformation from a lot of standpoints. It's more about the innovation agenda than necessarily, hey, we're almost like a utility that keeps the lights on, except it's bits and bytes and the ATM network and endpoint management, and we carve off security for the CISO or whatever. But then there's this let's improve the business model of what we're doing aspect.
Yeah, I think a lot of people still view technology as a cost center, as a necessary evil, or a function of, how can we keep the lights on? I believe that we can drive value through technology. I believe that we have to, in financial services, drive value through technology to succeed. An interesting point that was made to me early in my career was that there's nothing that we're doing in most industries, and this is very true in a credit union, nothing a credit union does requires technology. This was all done in 1935, 1938, before any computers. The technology is there to scale. The technology is an accelerant for growth. So as a CIO or as somebody responsible for the technology, we really have to be thinking about how can we apply it How can we understand the business well enough to help the business do better, be more efficient, grow faster, provide a better experience for the employees, provide a better experience for the members, raise awareness, what have you. So I think that perspective is maybe a little different or a little newer, but it's definitely served me well.
Well, there's certainly been the element of, you start thinking about feature functions that kind of get pulled out of institutions by their members, right? For a long time. I mean, we all saw the big shift around mobile, obviously online before that. I mean, even a few years ago, you were still seeing survey data about remote check deposit, right?
Yeah.
Which, okay, cool, welcome to the 2020s, but um, that aspect of, it's not technology for technology's sake. It's, how can we use this to accentuate something or accelerate something that's really going to give us a differentiation? It's going to help us stand out and better serve our members. So in that vein, why don't you tell us a little bit about the impetus for HUSTL? Where did this idea come from? Why did it make sense? I'm sure it wasn't the only option you had. Why did it win out for Vantage West?
Yeah, it's a super question. So the impetus for HUSTL, kind of where we started, was we know where the road we were on goes. We've been on that road for a long time. We've seen where it's headed, and we've seen the disintermediation that's happening in our industry. So we had a desire and an appetite to try something new. We wanted to go look at our field of membership and look even broader than our field of membership and try to find a segment of the population that's not being served by our current offerings, and even beyond that, by any current offerings. So we did. We looked at a lot of different things. We looked at the data and said, okay, who are our members? We have 180,000 members in Southern Arizona. There's obviously a lot more than 180,000 people. So we have a lot of room to grow our membership. What do they look like? Why are they coming to us? And then who isn't coming to Vantage West, and why not? So we looked, and we had a couple of different options. But when we landed on what started off as technology freelancers, so it's people in systems and networking or cybersecurity or whatever, who are doing gig work on the side or fully entrepreneurial. That resonated with me because I was that person at one point in time. But also the data shows, especially in the Phoenix area, there's a lot of people there doing this work. There's a lot of independent tech freelancers. We dug a little deeper.
So yeah, there was a demographic trend. I'll cut you off just for a second. There's a demographic trend where you saw there's a growing population that isn't coming to Vantage West, isn't coming to you for services, for assistance with banking, whatever, the core elements are. And then you decide we're going to make something for them.
Then we decided to explore making something for them.
Okay.
And we looked at it and we said, how feasible is this? What is it that they need? And from there, when we realized it, and again, I think my own experience here biased me a little. I knew what it took. I knew the 6 or 7 tools I had to use to do some freelancing back early in my career, whether it's, Microsoft Word or Excel for an invoice, and email, and no way to take a payment except for a check and things like that. So we looked at what their needs were and didn't see anyone in the market really meeting them. Then we expanded the group to all what we're calling highly skilled freelancers, because we thought, and we believe today, their needs are the same. So whether you're somebody who's doing technology consulting, or you're maybe a wedding planner or a videographer, your needs are the same. You need a way to manage your business that doesn't take all of your time. You need a way to get invoices out, to get money in, to organize your funds in a way that makes sense, project-based or job-based, tracking of things. And there's not really a tool all in one from a financial institution that does that. You stack on that, you don't need to pay any fees. So we're not going to charge fees. You do need the best rates you can. You need a mechanism to save for taxes, because that's not, there's no W-2s here. So that's not being done for you. So that's where we ended up on our final, what HUSTL is designed for, which is the highly skilled freelancers. Was it started with this group of technology gig work or entrepreneurs, and we expanded it to this highly skilled demographic or market because we think that their needs are very similar. We also think, quite frankly, they are a population that is likely to adopt a digital technology. They're comfortable in the digital world. They're not necessarily looking to go to a brick and mortar branch. They don't have the time or the effort or the energy because they're focused on building their own business.
So what process did you go through from a discovery standpoint, from a customer research standpoint, or whatever, to kind of get to the point of we know who this person is. We've probably generated a persona or an ideal client profile or something along those lines. But we can start putting numbers around what the addressable opportunity is, and then have a business case to sell internally, sell to the board, sell to the partners that are involved. Like what was that process like?
Yeah, so it's about finding the data, and there's lots and lots of data that we've seen published on gig work and that economy, defining what this highly skilled freelancer segment is, and understanding where they are. Are they in our field of membership, or will we have to go national? The answer is yes to both. We would love to go national at the end of the day, but we're perfectly comfortable with the numbers in our field of membership. And then understanding, like you pointed out, they're not with us now. We can easily look into our existing members and we see they're not there. And another interesting point about it is they're not anywhere because they're not businesses. They're not business accounts with that whole suite of products, and they're not retail accounts either. So they're largely living in a retail account as an individual, but they need a little more. So what did it look like as far as tracking it down was reading the research, understanding what it meant, digesting the numbers, trying to get an understanding for what their propensity to adopt new financial services was, which is high. They're understanding the likelihood that they would switch a provider for a better product, which was high. And then sort of that kind of a research is what went into the flushing out of the concept.
Yeah. How much primary research did you do? I mean, actually going out and talking to potential customers. Was that a major or a minor part of this?
That was very minor. We used broad industry research for this, and some of our own anecdotal experiences and the experiences of those around us. We didn't do a lot of focus group or primary research is a good word for it. We did not do a lot of that.
And then at some point, there's a decision between let's add these additional products or features or positioning within the Vantage West offering versus we're going to create an entirely new brand here, something that the way it appears you're positioning it stands on its own. What went into that decision, and like why did the path you took win out at the end of the day?
The decision about whether we make a sub brand or some focused part of our business that looks at this whole de novo credit union or digital credit union wasn't actually that difficult in my opinion. I think it was going to be harder to get our existing brand, which is well established and successful, resonating with people who are already familiar with it, than it was to create something new and a sense of community behind that something new. We know that with affinity-based marketing, you have to build a community. You have to get a deep understanding, and the people in that community need to feel a part of something. So that needs to be the whole thing, not just a part of something that's part of something else. So for us, that was a primary driver behind like doing this digital sidecar, if you will, or this secondary brand. The other part was really about resourcing and operational efficiencies. We're not equipped to really manage all of this on our own. We need some partners. So doing two brands on your own, kind of co-managing, is probably more than 2x the effort of one brand. So by segmenting it out completely and then outsourcing the effort, we can avoid the drag on the whole organization. And then we also have an opportunity to learn from a new experience. So creating something new, thinking from the ground up, lets us think about like, what would we do if we didn't have to honor our past? What would we do if we weren't encumbered by the decisions that were made 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago? So it really created an opportunity, a sandbox for us to learn in and think blue sky and really challenge all of our preconceived notions. So it was a really, really interesting exercise from that perspective.
So let's just talk a little bit about the timeline. You just launched earlier this spring, correct?
March.
The Hustle
Yep.
program. March of 2024. When did if we go back in time, when did the process start? Was kind of the impetus for this, and that, hey, we've got an idea to bang, we're launching this new brand.
Initial conversations were 2022. We started talking about it in early 2022 about the idea. What if, that was kind of this is something we could do. This is a way we could try to grow the credit union that stays true to our cooperative mission, stays true to our mission statement of investing in people today for a more prosperous tomorrow. As we were looking for growth avenues, many that came up weren't really true to our purpose. So early 2022, this conversation started. It got serious early 2023. I would say that the effort began in the second quarter of 2023. That's when we kind of started working. Like, hey, this is signed and delivered. Let's go. Was probably early second quarter of 2023. So about a year from the beginning to the actual launch.
And on resources, so Vantage West, you're about 2 billion in assets.
About 3
billion. Okay. And you're the CIO, and you've got a lot of other stuff going on. So, this is going to fall within one of the many projects that I'm sure you're juggling. How big is the team that's working on this? And, where did you start to reach outside for help to kind of bring in vendors and partners to help you with that?
We've got a team that's working on this that goes across the credit union. We have a core team to make decisions. We tried to keep it as small as we could in the spirit of being nimble. I would say the core team was probably 8. But then we reached out, and we're currently, as we evolve this, we've involved our marketing department in tandem with outsourced marketing more than they were necessarily in the launch. But really and truly, today we have 0 FTEs full-time on the HUSTL project. We are bringing one on board soon. But it's been an additional duty. Largely our AVP of digital has been a huge proponent of this, or a leader in this effort. Our marketing department has chimed in. Obviously we have to go through risk and compliance, get all of that understood. And then the partnership has been really important. So it's been a small team. We don't have the ability to duplicate the Vantage West team in this effort. So that was part of the appeal of the idea, was that we could do this with a team of 15 maybe at its largest.
And most of that effort, to kind of restate what you said, is incremental. It's one more thing that they're already doing within their domain or department or whatever they're working on.
Right. In many cases, it was also temporary. So we need you to come in and get through this. We need you to review these things or opine on this, and then go back to your day to day. So in all reality, the team that sort of has taken this on in any meaningful way, in a sustained way, is less than 5.
So were you kind of the tip of the pyramid on this effort? Did it fall within like your project management organization, or like how did you kind of organize, particularly because you're going to have people coming in and out, right? Somebody's got to be directing traffic at some point.
We have a tremendous enterprise PMO, and which does report to me. Digital banking also reports to me. So those two were the leaders of making this happen. Was our digital banking department in our project management office, and they coordinated all of the who and the whens and all the meetings and all the hows, and delegating the decision-making authority appropriately, getting the right people consulted. They did all of that work, and in hats off to them. I cannot tell you how much work it was and how great they did.
Because I imagine something like this, particularly as it goes across disciplines, the organizational change management aspect, the people parts, was probably the hard part, I could imagine.
Yes, I think we spent a lot of time, and it was important to us for the whole credit union to understand what was happening and why. And that applies to the people working in the branches, the people working in finance, people working in our collections. We wanted everybody to understand what we were doing. It's important to our credit union to communicate anyway, but this being so different, we wanted to make sure there was a complete understanding. And then we also had to kind of get out of our own heads because we're so used to the way we've always done things. And credit unions are not the most nimble, and are not necessarily adept at going out on limbs and taking risks. So we had to get out of our way a little bit and kind of be comfortable being uncomfortable. That was an interesting challenge I didn't foresee. Kind of how do we think about this without all of it being fleshed out? How can we move forward without every single thing dotted and crossed, knowing we will eventually get it where it needs to be before it goes live?
So what were the key capabilities you had to go outside to get to contract or buy or otherwise bring in? Like what did you see was kind of beyond the pale, either from your own skills, capability, or even just the ability to focus or bring attention onto?
Yeah, the impetus to outsource was not that we didn't have any of the capabilities. It was that we didn't have the resources to add to our existing staff. So we've outsourced everything. It is, when I say digital sidecar, I mean it is completely separate. The core, the marketing effort, the call center is outsourced. All the digital bank, all the technology is separate from our existing tech stack. It operates completely independently from Vantage West's main credit union.
And the operation of that is completely done by third parties outside
Correct.
of Vantage West. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting approach. So what was or is your primary measure of success? Like, how do you know this is going to work out for you? I mean, obviously recruiting new members is part of it, and there's some financial measurements in there, I'm sure, from acquiring deposits and loans. But what's a win, I guess?
It's already been a win. We have learned so much. Profitability and success, I think, are distinctly different in this instance. We have learned from this so much, and we have become a better organization for it. I would be lying if I didn't say it has upped our ability to recruit. I'm on this podcast because of it. My team has had other opportunities to chat with other credit unions and other people because of this effort. So I think it's elevated Vantage West. I have had one person reach out and say, this is the kind of place I want to work. And we actually anticipated that. We wanted that. We wanted to make a ripple in the industry, if you will. We've had more opportunities to collaborate with some other forward-thinking credit unions. So from those metrics, it's been a huge success. Profitability for us is about member acquisition. So we're looking and building a path towards more members, really getting deeper into our field of membership. This is just where we started here. Was we're not serving these people today, and we don't think they're being served in a way that's helpful to them. We can do it. So that's our real profitability metric, is how many members, how many of these highly skilled freelancers can we provide a service to? That's the primary KPI we're focused on right now.
So it sounds like this was a win. I mean, you said it's a win. So I guess two questions. One, is this now a playbook that you're planning to kind of repeat in different segments and in different approaches? And if so, what were the big lessons learned? Like, what would you do differently as you kind of go about this again?
So I would love it if we were talking, you and I, in 10 years and we had 10 of these operational, or 15. We're not ready to pull the trigger on a second one yet, but I will tell you again, back to my metric of success, I've been approached with 3 that I think are very interesting, 3 different concepts. And we're running those down and what it might look like. The lessons that we've learned are many. I think the primary one is that you've got to be uncomfortable to get it done. To move faster requires some level of trust that we'll get where we need to be. Like I said, kind of getting out of the way and letting it go. We've delegated a lot of authority, and we've set up the guidelines under which our partner can operate, and we trust them now. But it took some time to get there. There was a lot of trust and verify, and now we're there, and we understand that they're going to operate inside of our box and our parameters that we would like them to. Some other lessons that we've learned are it's a lot harder than we thought it was. A lot harder. We underestimated. I underestimated. It's probably in my nature how much work it would be to do this. Everything seems easy to a CIO. I think most VPs in technology will tell you that. But it was a lot of work. I think it's a muscle that when we exercise more, it will be less work. We'll have set up that playbook. But the first one was a lot more work than I expected. And we probably could have resourced it a little heavier.
So what are in your immediate future plans? I mean, obviously you have this grand plan for a house of brands sitting underneath Vantage West, but immediately you've talked about you're going to hire at least one FTE to kind of help expand this. Is there plans for additional feature functions, additionally like building out that brand either from a positioning or capability standpoint? What's the short term look like?
Yeah, one of the lessons that we learned that's so important, and I think it was sort of obvious, but it hadn't hit home for me, was that the consumer expectation is that products evolve. And that started maybe with the iPhone. Like you don't expect to buy an iPhone today and it be the same phone in a year. You expect Apple to update the software. That's now evolved into automobiles. We expect software updates. We see it in a lot of different things. We expect the technology will evolve. Consumers are expecting that from their financial institution too. So one of the lessons that we learned and one of the things that our partners taught us was you need to get to the market in a place with a path that evolves. You don't have to go with the kitchen sink. You don't even have to get to the kitchen sink, but the consumer wants to see some evolution and they want to evolve with you. So what we offer today is less than we will offer tomorrow. So we want to have a cycle and show continued growth. So we absolutely intend to offer more products or more services or more value than we do today as we go forward. We got to the market with what we needed to get to market, and we'll continue to grow that. Another lesson that we're learning, and I think is important, is that you can't just deliver digitally. SoFi and Chime are doing it with hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing. We don't have that. So we're going to put boots on the ground. This FTE we're hiring is going to go and engage in the community, be at events where the freelancers, the highly skilled freelancers are. We're going to support them in a way that they understand, and we're going to touch them. So it is a digital delivery, digital credit union with a human element. And we're hopeful that we'll build a community where not only can they all, benefit from the products and services that we provide, but they can benefit from each other. So now you're a part of this financial institution that can also, provide you with a network that can help you through business questions you have, or maybe there's a freelancer that does work that you need. We intend to use highly skilled freelancers in our own efforts in HUSTL. We'd call it dog fooding in IT, eating your own dog food. As we go and have things we need done, we need to engage that community. We need those highly skilled freelancers there. So those are the two things that we're looking at as this evolves right now, is the business development piece and putting our hands on people, the human element to it, and then also the product evolution and continuing to deliver a service that changes and adapts for the better as the marketplace adapts.
Rob, this has been a fascinating story. This whole thing, which is frankly still an emerging trend, which surprises me, of brand extension and where else you see. I know locally here in North Carolina, we have one of the affiliates of State Employee Credit Union, like biggest one in the country, has a municipal credit union, local government federal credit union. They have their own digital brand on top of that on Civic. So it's kind of a brand on top of a brand on top of a brand, hat on a hat.
Yep.
But it's been very successful for them. And, to see this branching out really kind of lays bare the lie that there's no innovation in community banking and in credit union, that there's lots of opportunity and almost an infinite way to scale and remix and put together services in a way that are highly relevant to customers and members, and to make real sizable impact on community. Yeah. So thank you very much for sharing with us. This is really inspiring. So Rob, if anybody's interested in learning more about Vantage West or Hustle, your approach, or want to connect with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Absolutely, please. I'm out there. It's Rob Hoyle. My email address is rob.hoyle@vantagewest.org. You can find Hustle at Hustle Financial. You can find Vantage West at vantagewest.org. We'd be happy to chat. And I got to tell you, I love that you use the word relevance. I think that's the key here. We're trying to find ways to be relevant to this new generation. And I'm happy to collaborate with anyone who's interested in those efforts.
Great. Well, we'll put links to all of that in the show notes. Rob, thanks again for being with us and sharing today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.